Hey guys, this is George from Firehouse Music, and I wanted to talk to you today about the importance of systems to speed up your learning. I think systematizing information is very important, especially when you have a lot of it, and on the guitar we certainly do, we have a lot. So what do I mean by systems? Systems can take many shapes and forms. There are many systems out there to sort of like put together all the information that you have on the guitar, musical concepts and things like that, how to transfer them to the guitar in a seamless way. The one that you're probably most familiar with are fingering systems. And that's when we talk about like the cage system, which is based on the fundamental chords on the guitar, C, A, G, E, and D. And then everything that you learn kind of gets related back to those basic chords. Or the 3-note per string system. That's when, like the name says, we play 3 notes per string when we're playing scales. And for the most part, we try to do that with arpeggios and pentatonics and just about every other musical structure. We do the same thing with that. We have the position or zone system, and that is when you basically take a 4-finger position on the guitar, and then you play through all the musical structures in one position, and then you move on. And then there are variations in between of it, like I feel like the Levitt fingering system, William Levitt from Berkeley. His system is a little bit in between of a positional approach to playing and the caged system. It really doesn't matter what system you use. What's more important is that you find one and you use it. Why? We want to use it because when you first start playing the guitar, you learn, if you have a good teacher, you probably learn like a couple of songs, right? And then you have your basic chords. You have like your basic major open chords, and then the minor open chords, and you learn a couple picking patterns, and then maybe you learn a couple strumming patterns, and then you play some songs, some more songs, things like that. And that's totally fine. But eventually, as you begin to venture deeper into the technique of the guitar, you're going to find that there's more and more variation, not just on the mechanics on the guitar. Like one of the things that you first learn when you start is, for instance, this is just one example, is that you want to play with your fingers curved and use the very tip of your fingers to play. And in general, that is true, and that facilitates the ability to play chords. But if you're playing with distortion and you're playing single notes, one of the ways that you mute is by tilting your fingers slightly. So now you're no longer playing with your fingers perfectly bent, but you're playing with your fingers slanted a little bit. So then, per the beginning instructions that you got, this style of playing is quote unquote wrong. And the more you learn, you're going to realize that there's really not wrong things. Well, there are some things that are inherently wrong, but there are more than one way to play correctly, let's say. So as you begin to understand what the guitar is and how to play it, you begin to find that nuance, and there's less of an absolute way of thinking about playing, and depending on the style and so on. But that's just one area of guitar playing, and we kind of get hyper fixated on the technical side, the mechanics of playing the guitar. But if you look into translating musical structures on the guitar, let's take chords for instance. Well, now it's kind of a big deal, because when you first start, it's like, okay, well, here's a C chord, right? But then later you learn like, oh, well, you can play C like this, and you can play C like this, and you can play C like this, and you can play C like this. Oh, that was wrong. Like this. Yeah. And so you get the idea. So then now you have 5 different variations on the C chord. And that's just a triad. And then of course you have all the other chords, right? B flat, A flat, and so on. All 12 notes. They all are going to have a triad version. And then you have your major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, half diminished, or minor 7 flat 5, fully diminished, your augmented triads, and then you keep adding up, you get to the extended chord. So then you have add 9, you have 6 chords, 6, 9, major 6, and then they all come in the same variety of families where you have your a major 9, a 9 or a dominant 9, your minor 9. You get the idea. So the number of chords very quickly gets pretty overwhelming. It's like kind of ridiculous, the number of chords that we have on the guitar. So unless you organize the fingerings in some sort of system that allows you to kind of group things together, you're stuck having to learn each individual chord, and your memory is you're gonna hit a limit on how many things you can keep straight in your head, unless you organize them, unless you come up with some kind of system to keep that knowledge in place, and so you can retrieve it quickly. So if we're talking about just a system in general, the cage system is pretty good to classify chords. Most of the chords, there are some chords that don't fit because they kind of land in between the positions, but for the most part, you can classify most guitar chord shapes as either a C shape, an A shape, a G shape, a D shape, or an E shape. This is not a video of the cage system. I'm just using it as an example. So what that does is whenever you learn a C chord, let's say C major 7, you learn C major 7 chord. Well, now you have, not only have you learned the one chord, but you also know that there's 4 other fingerings that you need to learn. And knowing what you don't know, it's a very powerful thing, because it sort of like, it puts a limit on the things, right? So it's not like, oh, I have this infinite number of things that I don't know, or worse, thinking that you know everything. That's the worst. But if you know one, okay, well, I know 1 out of 5, right? So then you learn the next one, and okay, now I know 2 out of 5. And what that does is it sort of like, it creates, I don't know, I'm not a cognitive scientist, so I don't know exactly how this works, but it creates like a file in your head that you can keep the chords of the same type in there. And over time, that's very useful, because it's kind of like more and more things become the same thing. And that's what it gets kind of weird. It's kind of like philosophical, where it's like, through 10,000 things, know one thing, and out of one thing, infer 10,000 things. But it really is that way on the guitar, because when you put all those shapes together, and I'm still just talking about chords, then it's like, okay, well, in my head, this is the same as this, and it's the same as this, and it's the same as this, and this. So they're all the same thing to me. And then through there, through a very simple modification, I connect all the other chords, so there's still just one thing. So instead of this, if I want the dominant version of the same shape, I go here, and I have that, and then that becomes that, which then becomes that, which becomes this, which becomes this. And we're still doing that with C. And since the way I think of the guitar is a chromatic instrument, because it is, that means that when I learn this, right, I'm not only learning this, but I'm also learning this, and this, and this, and this, right, in every position. So when I learn one chord, I learn 12, because all the notes, I'm using one shape to play all possibilities of that chord, of that specific voicing. And then you see how quickly it is, how quickly it becomes easy to play in multiple keys, because then you can do something like take a chord progression, right, and play it across not only multiple keys, but multiple positions. And the fingerings are all the same. So it's all one thing. The transposition becomes effortless. When you look at music in multiple keys, you don't get freaked out anymore, because you know that it's the same thing. You're just in another position. That's the power of systems. It very quickly takes something that otherwise would be extremely difficult, very, very taxing on your mind and memory and everything. It will take a lot of effort. and it makes it easy. And that's why people who truly know how to play, they do these things and they make them seem effortless. And that is not a superpower, it's something that you yourself can learn. If you just put in the time and you learn these things, and then once again, you systematize what you learn. When you first start, it's going to be overwhelming. You're not really going to have enough resources to be able to do this. But once you get there to the advanced beginner, intermediate level, I strongly recommend that you find a system. If you have a teacher, talk to your teacher about this. I think it's very important. And it'll also get rid of the randomness of your instruction. It'll provide you sort of like a pathway to mastery of the instrument. So that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about, just how systems work and how you can use it to make your lessons experience better. If you want me to talk a little bit more about what systems I like to use with my students, or you want me to do a masterclass on this or anything like that, feel free to just drop me a line. You can send me an email or put something down in the comments, and I'll be happy to do it. We are always doing masterclasses here at Firehouse Music. We do them about once a quarter. So just let me know, put a request, and I'll be happy to do it. I'll catch you guys next time.